Hey, good morning, naughty community. Welcome back to my naughty hobby for another easy to follow crochet tutorial with Amber. Today I'm going to be showing you how to do this. I called it the pinwheel stitch sequence because, well, the way that the stitches have formed together kind of look like a pinwheel to me. And so I'm excited to show you guys how to do this because we're going to basically be taking all of the most commonly used stitches and arranging them in this sequence to create this look. It's great for beginners who are trying to take their skill level and learn more about the stitches. When I first started crocheting, I wasn't aware that there were multiple stitches that you can use, so I hope that you guys find this helpful today, and let's go ahead and get started. So first off, I always like to show you guys what I'm working with. I'll be working with a 3.25 millimeter hook and some super fine fiber that I got from Hobby Lobby. In order for this stitch sequence to work up correctly, we're going to be working in multiples. Our foundation row needs to be a multiple of 8 plus 2 extra stitches. And so, you know, basically, I have a lot of people who ask me questions about the foundation row and your beginning chain. And so let's say after your turns and everything and you have your first row of stitches, you will need that multiple of 8 plus 2 extra stitches. Not to be confused when we do our turning chain. So let's start out with, let's see here, we'll do 18. Let's do a start chain of 19. Again, that extra stitch that you're hearing is for our turn. I'm going to bring my camera down a little bit closer. And just so you guys know, all of my tutorials are always done in American terms. There is a difference with how the UK describes their stitches. It varies a little bit. All of my tutorials are always done in American. Let's go ahead and get started. Hey, Sunshine. Happy to see you jumping on today. So what I just created was a slip knot. I had said in the post that I did yesterday that I'll be showing you how to do the slip knot. I'm going to do that just a little bit slower in case I have any like super beginners with us. So I just wrap my yarn around my finger, create an X, and then the working yarn, which is the yarn that will be coming out of your skein. See that, this little loop here? You just bring your working yarn through and then you can slip your hook in to create your slip knot. Hey Gretchen, thanks for sharing, Allie. I really appreciate that. So we've created our slip knot and now we're going to chain 19. And you're going to want to work these pretty loose. You don't want to get too tight because I like to work through the back bumps of our stitches, or of our chains. I'm sorry, we haven't done any stitches yet. There's 10. $18 and 19. Oh, good morning, Aunt Lori. I love you too. I'm happy that you're here watching with me. Okay, so now that we have our 19 stitches done, I'm going to go ahead and double count or double check my count here. $14, $16, $18, $19. Perfect. So again, I'm going to be working into these back bumps. If you turn your work to the side, you know, the top will always look like those nice braided stitches. We're going to be working into these back bumps. So in our second chain from our hook, which would be this one right here, we're going to do a single crochet, which is just inserting your hook into that stitch and drawing up a loop. yarning over and pulling through both loops on your hook. Now we're going to chain 1, skip the next bump, and we're going to work a half double crochet into the next. So you'll yarn over and insert your hook into that back bump and pull up a loop. You'll have 3 on your hook, yarn over, and then pull through all 3 of those loops, half double crochet. We will double crochet into the next, and then we're going to treble crochet or triple crochet. I've heard it referred to both ways, which is just yarning over twice, inserting your hook, and drawing up a loop. You should have 4 on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through the remaining 2 on your hook, chain 2, and into the next back bump, this one here, we're going to follow that pattern working up, but the opposite. So we'll go treble, double, half double. And in rows to follow, we will be using the back bumps of those chains, so keep that in mind as you're chaining. If you work them too tight, it's going to be really difficult to get into those spots. So again, we're doing a treble into the next. Double crochet into the next. And then half double crochet into the next. So your piece should be looking like this so far. Now we're going to chain 2 and skip over the next 2 bumps. And because our last stitch of, these groups of 3 was a half double crochet, we're going to work a half double crochet into the next and start another, I don't know, I guess you could refer to it as like a tower or peak. So we'll do half double crochet, a double crochet, and then that treble. Again, we're going to chain 2 and then start with that treble crochet again, because we're going down the other side of the peak, and we'll just be working into that next back bump of our chain. Work a double crochet, and then a half double, oops, I must have gotten an extra chain in there. Kind of like when I make mistakes, because then it gives me an opportunity to show you guys how, how you can fix it. So when you come down to your last peak, if you've counted out your chain right, you should have 1 stitch to skip, and then you'll work a single crochet into your very last stitch. But here, instead of ripping out the work that I've done and taking one of those chains away, all I'll do is when I'm finished with this piece, you can undo your knot and take out that last chain. And so this comes in handy, especially when you are creating blankets and you have a chain that is anywhere from, 150 chains to, I've seen blankets with, up to like 300 or 400. You don't want to have to undo all of that work. So, find little shortcuts to make it easier on you. Okay, so this stitch sequence is only going to be 2 alternating rows. So I showed you how to do the first one. We're going to go ahead and turn our work. And you guys may have heard me talking a lot about using the standing double crochet as an alternative to turn to the chain 3 or chain 2, whatever you might be accustomed to doing, and decided to utilize this for an alternative for the chain 4 when working with your treble stitch as your first. So this will be worked the exact same way as the standing double crochet. We're just going to add an extra link on the top. So in that first stitch of your row, which is this one right under here, right here, we'll insert our hook and drop a loop, yarn over and pull through both. Now we'll go through the front leg and do the same thing where we drop a loop, yarn over and pull through both. And now we'll do that one more time to create a standing treble crochet as an alternative to like a chain 3. You can still see the 3 chains, but it looks a little neater like an actual stitch instead of like bulky on the side. Now working into that back bump of the chain 1 space, we're going to work a treble crochet. Now we'll loosely chain 3. Again, because we're going to be working stitches into our chains, you'll want to keep that a little bit looser. And when we're working, we will be working into the chain spaces here. So when you're working at the top of the peak, it's going to be single crochets that we work into those chain spaces. Chain 3. And now into the chain spaces here, we're going to place treble crochets. Sometimes this second chain can be a little tricky to see. I feel like it disguises itself as another stitch, but our second chain is right here. Chain 3. And now we're at the top of another peak, so we'll work single crochets. Chain 3. We always want our end to match our beginning, so you can always look back on your first 2 stitches, and I see that I work those trebles. So into the chain 1 space, we'll work a treble, and then also a treble stitch into our last stitch here. So you yarn over twice, insert your hook and drop a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through the remaining 2 for your treble stitches. So at this point, your piece should be looking something like this. Now, because we're not working our foundation anymore, it's really simple how you start back with what's considered row 1. You're going to do a chain 1 and turn your work. And then into our first stitch here, you'll do a single crochet and a chain 1. Now we're going to start building those peaks again. And again, that sequence goes half double crochet into that first chain, double crochet into the next, treble crochet into the last chain, so we built up to our peak. We're going to do 2 chains. Now we'll work down into the valley. So treble crochet into the next chain space, double crochet, and then half double crochet. So you've created your next peak here. You'll chain 2 and then start with the half double crochet, because before the chains, that was the last stitch that we did. Starting to build our second peak here. At the end, we'll chain 1 and then place a single crochet in the top of that standing treble that we did. So now you can see, kind of what looks like a pinwheel. Hi, Jean. So I'll work out a couple more rows with you guys and see if anybody has any questions. Oh, and thanks for all the stars. Just looked up and saw that you guys had sent some stars, so thank you for that. Okay, so now again we're going to be working the row that has the standing treble crochet. That's where you just turn your work. And we'll be working with the single crochet. Here's our first stitch. Ah, thanks Aunt Lori for the stars. So I did a single crochet there. And then inserting our hook through the legs, we're just going to create 2 more single crochets. Chaining 3, because we're creating these spaces, we'll work our stitches in the next row. Remember, at the tops of the peaks we work single crochets, we're working those trebles again. So in the chain 1 space, and then also the last stitch. I just love the way that this works up. I thought about doing this pattern for a baby blanket. However, I was really concerned about how big these holes are and little toes and appendages, things like that getting stuck in them. I always like to remind you guys that when you're creating for babies to keep things like that in mind, because though crochet is beautiful and they look so cozy, it can be dangerous. And but this would make like a great, I think, summer throw, or, you know, wrap around for, you know, anybody but like a little tiny baby using this pattern. Unless you use like a much smaller hook, you might be able to get the holes small enough to where, you know, it's not dangerous. But that's all there is to it. And again, I love this pattern because it helps you reinforce your knowledge of all of the crochet, you know, most widely used crochet stitches, which is the single crochet, the half double, the double crochet, and then the treble, and also chains, and learning how to work into the back bump. And so if you're trying to hone in on your skills here, I would suggest giving this one a whirl, and I think you're going to be really surprised and thrilled with how well it turns out. But I'm going to go ahead and hop off of here now. We got a bunch, my husband and I got a bunch of stuff to do, so I'm glad. Let's see here. I am going to look through and just make sure that there weren't any questions that were asked that I missed, because I always like to, you know, address those. And I do go back and look at comments or any questions you guys may have had, but I hope that you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching and joining in on the conversation, and for everybody who sent me stars. Like, I don't even understand the program, but it's appreciated. So thanks so much, and I'll talk to you guys all real soon. Happy hooking and take care. Bye, guys.